In the very, very early days, say in Brisbane, when the devotees first came to Brisbane, they were given like a royal welcome. They had like a, what do you call it, an escort, a police escort through the town to honour them. And they'd very willingly give us a permit to distribute books. If we went, you had to go to the police station. I remember the sergeant, you know, his face was just a little bit lopsided on one side, right? And yeah, he would write out the permit for you, right? But unfortunately, we kind of probably abused our privilege. The permit means on a certain day, in a certain time, in a certain spot, you could distribute the books or actually move around a little bit. It's called, you couldn't stand in the one spot actually. You actually had to move a little bit. There's a law like that. But, you know, we just kept doing what we wanted to do, and gradually, you know, the police sort of tolerated us, but we weren't as welcome. And then it sort of got to the point that occasionally, you know, we might get picked up for, you know, on some technicality for distributing books without a permit. Not just Brisbane, Gold Coast, like that, Coolangatta, that happened. So, but anyway, the plainclothes was you could go to a place and you could distribute pretty much for the day and then go to another place the next day. So things were really good. We went to Darwin, Cairns, and so many different places, Mount Isa on a number of occasions. Here's an interesting anecdote. In 1974, myself, Gopinatha and Subbulakshmi, we were travelling together, and we went on a trip from Sydney. So our destination was Darwin. 1974, close to Christmas time. That's significant, we'll find out in a minute. And Subbulakshmi was pretty good, and we did the show in Cairns, and she cleaned up, but it just wasn't my kettle of, it just wasn't, you know, I didn't like doing shows, so I didn't do that much that day. But anyway, we made our way across via Mount Isa. And Mount Isa we did really well. We actually had volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, that might have been a subsequent trip through Mount Isa. But we finally got to Darwin, and we had a combi van, and we'd taken as many books as we could, but after a few days of distribution, or a little while in Darwin, we'd ran out of books. So we spent a few days just kind of, just making a few Simply Wonderfuls, distributing Prashadam, something like that, But we were dressed in dhotis because, well, we couldn't really do that in plain clothes, you know. So we made our presence felt to the local authorities to some degree. Anyway, normally the point I would like to make was we really only stay in a place for one day, because inevitably somebody might have been rubbed up the wrong way, they complain, and if you're there the next day, you get picked up. So we'd keep moving, and it was good. We had a schedule, we had certain towns on the route, you know, and we'd do that from time to time, and it seemed to work okay. This time in Darwin, we were there for like 2 or 3 weeks. So it was just before Christmas, it was very hot, and Gopinatha one day said to me, look, I saw a police paddy wagon cruising around, and I think you should be a bit careful. And yeah, okay. But anyway, they did pick me up, took me down to the lockup, and they were going through the contents of my book bag, and they were really making fun of me because, of course, they took my wig off. Because we'd gotten some more books, you see. We had some shipped up from Sydney by train to Cairns, and by truck from Cairns to Darwin. 75, 80 cases of Srimad Bhagavatams, nectar. So there we were distributing them. And so they're going through the books, and you know, we had one of the books we were distributing was Second Canto Part 2, and that was an early edition, Second Canto Part 2. It had a red cover and it had these early pictures. There was one chapter in Second Canto Part 2, Scheduled Incarnations of the Lord, and there were pictures of all the different incarnations, right? So they were having a great time, taunting me, and they were looking through the pictures. What's this one about? Oh yeah, tried to explain something, and then this one. They got to the picture of Lord Nrsingadev, right? It was a classic picture, Hiranyakashipu straddled on his thighs, it looked like it's pulling out, all the entrails, blood and guts everywhere. So they got really sober at that point. They said, what's this one about? And I didn't say much, but they got the impression that, Lord Nrsingadev, doesn't like devotees getting taunted. Now, I don't really profess myself to be a devotee, but we were serving Srila Prabhupada in the best capacity, and this kind of service was pretty austere. Buddhimanta, sometimes he just, we'd be halfway through breakfast, which was pretty austere anyway, and he'd just say, right, that's it, let's go, we're in the street, right? So as soon as, we had that kind of exchange about that picture, they just closed the book, put it away, and that was it. They just, minded their own business, right? Next day, went to court. I won't say what the charge was. It was something to do with our tactics in book distribution, I guess, And so I was let out on self-reconnaissance bail, whatever that meant. I really didn't understand much about it, but anyway, we just thought we'd better leave town. The court hearing was, I don't know, a few months away, a few weeks away. Even that was too much for us. So there we left town, and there were 3 of us, and another boy we picked up who was kind of interested in becoming a devotee. And we had 50 cases of Srimad Bhagavatams left and everything. And we've been away for months from Sydney, and so we were packed to the hilt, and. Buddhimanta was driving, but then he had asked me to drive. Now, I didn't have an actual license, I just had a learner's permit. And so, okay, I was following orders, this is the idea. So he was just sitting in the passenger seat reading the Bhagavad Gita. It was dusk, and we were, just 5 or 10 or 15, 20 kilometres out of Katherine on the way down from Darwin, right? And a number of Brumbies wandered onto the road. Brumbies are wild horses. There would have been a good 8 or 10 of them, right? Moving targets. We were flying along. The idea was that I felt comfortable at maybe 50 miles an hour, which might have been 70 or 80 kilometres an hour, right? But Buddhi insisted that I go 70 miles an hour. That's hiking it for a combi loaded up like that, which is basically, kind of, just kind of wobbling on the road. And I wasn't a very good driver, so I had to make the decision, because they were moving around. It wasn't like you could just move this way and avoid them. There were 10 of them, and they were only moving around the road. And there was a drop on the side of the road. Anyway, I decided I better not go that way. But we hit a horse. The back end of a horse, the van flipped over, sort of went down the road on its side for quite a while. I remember actually when I hit the horse, because I was, at that time it wasn't compulsory to wear a seatbelt, but I used to always wear a seatbelt, and they weren't retractable ones, so I used to put it on always very tightly. I felt comfortable. So I could feel myself going right up to the windscreen, right up to the steering wheel and the windscreen, right? And bang, and then, glass everywhere and blood. But it wasn't my blood, spots of blood. It was a horse's blood. Anyway, so when we came to a standstill, we all got out the windscreen, because the door was on the side underneath. And Buddhi stayed behind. We flagged down somebody. Subra and Lakshmi and I, we went to hospital in Katherine. And nothing seemed to be wrong. So we didn't know where to stay the night. So we're knocking on different doors, mostly churches and places like that. And, thinking of Salvation Army or something like that. So nobody really wanted to know about us, probably. But there was one Christian, church, and they were, doing the charity thing. They said, okay, we're building a new church over there, you can stay over there. So Subbu Lakshmi stayed on one side of the room, I stayed on the other side of the room. And in the morning we were invited over for breakfast, wheat bix and milk and whatever, and somehow or other we got through it. Then later on that day we had to find out where Gopinatha was. Somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, we found out, we hooked up, and the van was going to be repaired. The insurance company decided, no, we can't just give you the money for that, it's got to be repaired. Really, it was a write-off, it shouldn't have been done. It was a lemon after that, and never actually really performed well. But we did some distribution in Katherine for a week or so, trying to raise some funds to go back to Sydney. So we flew from Katherine to Darwin in a small plane, then from Darwin to Sydney, and shortly after that there was a cyclone in Darwin. And I remember feeling, of course it was a sad affair, but I was a bit relieved because I'm pretty sure there wouldn't have been much left at the police station, and the records would have been lost, and it was a free man. So, but there might have been a connection between, there would have been a connection between that incident because, whatever, anyway.